Rain hissed on the slate rooftops of Alderwick, turning the already murky dawn into a blurred watercolor. Mina's hands trembled as she held her map parchment above her head and peered at the lines that weren't supposed to exist. There, just past the willow grove, an ink blot she had never drawn pulsed softly in the gloom. "How did you sleep, Dreamweaver?" Old Merrick's voice startled her. His hunched shadow loomed by her tent, oil lantern sloshing. He was no ordinary mapmaster, a legend, whispered of in the taverns, the last to claim he'd seen the world's edge and returned unmaddened. Now he looked her up and down, eyes sharp, unblinking. "Not well," Mina replied. She pressed her thumb to the quivering mark. "Another vision. The land keeps changing, on its own." "Or someone's changing it," Merrick murmured. He tapped the strange blot. "Pack your compass, girl. You'll want to see where that leads." She almost refused, but the unease in her gut reminded her of last night's dream, a willow convulsing, roots greedy, swallowing sunlight. She set out into the dripping forest, map clutched tightly. That's when she saw him, a boy in a threadbare cloak crouched under a low branch. He grinned, showing a gold-capped tooth. "You chasing the shadows too, mapmaker?" "Who are you?" Mina challenged, squinting through the drizzle. "Call me Shade," he winked, producing a folded card from behind her ear. "You need a trickster. The veil is shifting and not in your favor." Mina blinked. "What veil?" Shade just laughed and tossed the card. It spun through the air, slicing a shimmering tear through the morning fog. Beyond it, she glimpsed improbable colors, flickering like moonlight underwater. A shape moved, a stag's antlers flowering with glass roses. "What's happening to Alderwick?" Mina rasped, voice shaking. "The rift is hungry," Shade whispered. "But there's still hope, if you're brave enough to sketch the unknown." He gestured at her map. "We find the mage. Then maybe your world stays yours." She hesitated, then followed him through the rift. The world behind her shuddered, as if remembering a nightmare. She could only hope she'd be brave enough to face what waited in the realm where dreams bled into waking. The fate of her home, and perhaps more, now lay in trembling hands. Mina stepped through the glimmering tier, her breath catching as the world spun sideways. Colors bright as fireflies painted the leaves, and moths with mirror wings fluttered around her boots. Shade bounded ahead with reckless ease, his laughter echoing through the velvet blue mist. "Keep up," he called, "or the dream crows will think you're lost." Mina stumbled forward, blinking as the ground stretched and curled beneath her feet, never the same shape twice. The woods crackled with impossible life, trees with lanterns for fruit, paths that tried to wriggle away from her steps. Even the air hummed with half-remembered lullabies. "Is this all a dream?" Mina asked, clutching her compass so tight her knuckles went white. Shade turned, eyes glittering. "Dreams borrow from truth, and truth steals from dreams. Here, both are slippery. But your map can hold the shape together. If you dare." They reached a clearing where the light was sickly green and shimmered on the edges, as if reality itself was shivering. In the center stood a hulking stone house, overgrown with silver moss. A rotted sign read, "Nima the Unseen, Mage of Mending." Shade knocked. The door swung open by itself. "Show some respect," he hissed, ducking inside. Mina hesitated, then followed. Inside was gloom. Lines of crystalline bottles hung from the rafters. At a desk cluttered with scrolls, a woman in threadbare blue lifted her head. Her eyes were as old as rain. "You bring her here. Why?" the mage rasped, voice brittle as twigs. Shade bowed, winking at Mina. "Mapmaker. She saw the rift in dreaming. If anyone can mend the veil, it's her." Nima studied Mina silently. Seconds dragged, heavy as stones. "You saw the willow groves eating themselves, yes? And the rivers flowing backward into nothing," she croaked. Mina nodded, pulse pounding. "Every night, it's getting worse. Then you've seen too much. Still, there may be hope." Nima gestured at Shade and Mina. "Swear to me, by root and wind, that you'll trust only each other, even when the world tries to tear you apart." Mina looked at Shade. He nodded, solemn for once. Together they spoke. "By root and wind, we trust." For the first time, Nima smiled, faint sad. "Good. You'll need each other. For the rift will offer lies sweeter than any truth, and once the veil breaks, dreams and nightmares will devour both worlds." A shadow shifted in the corner. Mina shivered, realizing their journey was no longer just about saving Alderwick. It was about surviving the tangled heart of dreams before the real world vanished forever. Nima led the way down a spiral staircase that coiled beneath her cottage, her staff tapping out a rhythm in the gloom. Shade followed, every echo reflected in the dozens of glass baubles strapped to his belt. Mina felt the weight of promise, the ancient, urgent kind, settle in her chest as she clutched her map and compass. "Where are we going?" Mina whispered, glancing at the crooked shadows dancing along the stone walls. "To the thread room," Nima replied. "If the veil must be stitched, you must first hold a strand of it. Only then can you mend what's been torn." The stairs ended at a round chamber alive with movement. Threads of color floated in the air, weaving through each other, unraveling, then spiraling together in sudden wild knots. Mina's breath caught as she spied images, real memories and twisted dreams dangling in the threads. There were faces she recognized, both loving and cruel, spinning in and out of the tapestry. "Touch only what calls to you," Nima warned. "The veil senses fear." Shade grinned, flashing his gold tooth. "And it bites." Mina stepped forward, sweat pricking her brow. The colors pulsed around her, tugging at her doubts. Could she really fix the rift? Or was she about to lose herself entirely? A single thread, copper bright and humming, hovered near her hand. She reached out. As her fingers brushed it, images spilled into her mind, her father folding the map with tired hands, a willow tree that grew roses, and a darkness churning at the horizon, swallowing whole villages. She gasped and jerked back. "I saw it," she whispered, shaken. "The rift. It's alive and hungry. It's not just a tear. It wants to devour everything." Nima's eyes softened, but her voice was hard. "You must learn to trace its edges, follow it in both worlds, and resist its whispers. If even one nightmare takes root in your heart, it can unravel you." "Unravel her?" Shade piped up, eyes wide. "The rift preys on doubt and longing," Nema said sternly. "But a mapmaker who shapes her own truth can weave a new border. You must chart the dreamlands, Mina, and find the rift's heart. Shade will help you." Mina's hands trembled, but the copper thread now looped around her wrist, pulsing warm. She took a steadying breath, meeting Shade's gaze. "Ready?" Shade asked quietly. Mina nodded, forcing a lopsided smile. "Dreams or nightmares? I'll map my way through." They stepped out of the thread room side by side, the thread glowing between them, a guide and a warning. The world above was waiting, and the true journey into the shifting veil had only just begun. Dawn broke over the dreamlands in impossible colors, violet, emerald, and the type of gold that never existed in Mina's world. Mina, Shade, and Nima emerged from the mage's crooked cottage, blinking in the dazzling light. The copper thread still circled Mina's wrist, pulsing in time with her racing heart. "So how do we find the rift's heart?" Mina asked, gazing at her map. Its inky lines now rippled and reformed every time she blinked. Nima traced a path with her staff. "The rift claws at reality's soft seams. You'll need to cross the river of lost names and pass the orchard of false promises. Only then will you see its true shape." Shade slung his bag over his shoulder, mouth twitching. "Well, that sounds lovely. I'll flip for who walks through the orchard first." As they set out, the land grew stranger. Meadows where laughter rained from the sky, brooks that whispered secrets, and trees whose roots curled into spirals. Mina's map fluttered against her fingers, guiding her through twists and turns she'd never imagined. Suddenly a cold wind swept over them. The river was ahead, wide and swirling with mist. Names, actual names, floated across its surface in shimmering script, drifting and vanishing just beyond reach. "That's not water," Mina breathed. "It's words." Nima nodded. "Everyone who has ever forgotten who they are leaves a trace here. If you cross unguarded, you risk losing your name and your memories." "So how do we cross?" Shade asked, glancing at Mina. Nima produced a packet of willow twigs. "Tie these around your wrists and speak your true names. Trust each other to remember them. That will anchor you." Shade smirked. "All right, mapmaker, you first." Mina hesitated, then spoke clearly. "My name is Mina Varen. I am a cartographer, daughter, dreamer, and I will not be forgotten." She looked at Shade expectantly. "Shade," he said, for once his voice almost gentle. "Real name's Tavern Gray. I'm loyal, a bit too quick-fingered, but I keep my word." Mina tied the twigs, lending her steady hands to Shade and Nima. The willow burned softly, merging with the copper thread's glow. They stepped onto the river's surface. Words brushed against them. Regrets, half-remembered songs, lies and truths braided together. But the twigs and the names held strong, keeping their hearts anchored. On the far side, Mina exhaled, realizing how close she'd come to losing herself in the storm of memory. Nima gave her a small proud nod. You crossed the first threshold, Mina. Beyond the orchard lies the rift's first defense. As the sky began to darken, Mina looked up, uneasy but unbroken. The journey was changing her, burning doubt away and forging something new. Hope, sharper than fear. Shade caught her gaze, grinning. Told you, mapmaker. Together we leave no trace behind but the truth. The orchard of false promises looked beautiful from afar. 2 twisting rows of pearlescent trees heavy with golden fruit, petals drifting like soft snow. Mina stepped between the roots with caution, her hand on the map as it unfolded new pathways before her eyes. Nima warned, stay close. The orchard knows your heart's weakest wish and fashions it into a lure. If you stray from truth, even for a moment, it will swallow you. Shade nudged Mina. Lead on, fearless cartographer. I'll keep your shadow in check. The air shimmered. As they walked, the fruit whispered, each one offering a regret or a hope turned sour. Stay, Mina. Your parents miss you. Shade, no one will ever betray you again if you chose this path. Mina felt temptation tickle at her mind. She saw the image, her family safe, her world unscarred by rifts. All she had to do was reach out and pluck the nearest fruit. The copper thread itched against her wrist, reminding her of her oath. Shade's laugh rang out, too loud, too brittle. Don't listen, mapmaker. Their promises taste sweet but never fill you. Nima's eyes narrowed. Even the mage struggled, her fingers trembling as a low-hanging peach whispered, Mend the veil and you'll live forever. Mina forced her eyes shut, clinging to Shade's sleeve. Can you hear your temptation? Shade nodded quietly. A fresh start. Never lying again, never running. But the orchard's gifts rot inside you. They moved as if against a storm, each step heavier than the last. Mina's map flickered with shadowy routes, but one, faint, copper-edged, was just visible ahead. There, she hissed. That's the true path. Nima took the lead, her staff striking the ground, unraveling illusions. The only promise that matters is the one you make to yourself. Together, they stumbled out of the last arching branches. The orchard snapped shut behind them with a hiss of disappointment, petals turning black on the breeze. Mina's knees buckled. Shade caught her, steady and real. Nima's voice was hoarse but kind. You passed the orchard's test. The rift's heart is close, but its guardians see your every secret now. Be ready. You have proven hope, but now you must face fear. Mina rose, feeling hollowed out but somehow lighter. She had turned away from easy lies. The copper thread glowed brighter. Shade squeezed her hand, a gesture without tricks or bravado. For the first time, Mina truly believed that together they stood a chance. Night pressed in, thick as velvet. The trio pressed on through tangled dusk, lantern fire flickering across faces both tense and determined. Mina's dreams lingered behind her eyes, but she shook them off, letting focus sharpen her senses. They entered a hollow where shadows danced and the ground seemed to shift beneath their feet. Whispers flitted on the air, unfamiliar voices weaving between the trees. Mina gripped her map. Shade held his cards between his knuckles. Nima's staff pulsed, the tip glowing faint blue. Suddenly a shape slithered from the darkness, a wraith-like spirit, its eyes hollow lanterns, its voice 100 silenced nightmares. Who dares tread so close to the hungry heart? Mina stepped forward, voice steady despite her pounding heart. We seek to mend the veil. We bring names, memories, truth. The spirit circled her, smoky hands flickering over Mina's map. Truth is shaped by fear. What will you give to pass? Its gaze turned to Shade. You, trickster, what are you willing to sacrifice? Shade hesitated, bravado slipping from his face. I'm not afraid. The spirit hissed, reaching for his silver card deck. Then prove it. Let go of your clever deceptions or remain lost. Mina watched Shade struggle. His whole life had been built on sleight and shadow. His hands trembled as he dropped the deck to the spirit's feet. The cards melted into mist, drifting away. You may pass, the spirit murmured, turning to Mina. And you, Dreamwalker, fear cannot be mapped. Will you step ahead, alone if you must? Mina's throat tightened. Images of being left behind, failing her world, surged inside her. But she met Nima's glance and Shade's empty, hopeful hands. If I must, but I hope I won't. The spirit smiled, a fissure of moonlight in the gloom. Hope is the edge of every fear. It vanished, leaving behind a swirling arch of light. Mina, Shade, and Nima passed through together. The hollow felt heavier, the pressure of the rift closer now, but there was a new steadiness in Shade's walk and a bright calm beneath Mina's nerves. They emerged on the other side, breathless but untouched. Nima looked both sad and proud as she spoke. Now you know the cost of truth and the courage to move forward. The next test will not just prey on your fears, it will seek to twist love into loss. Be wary. Mina met Shade's gaze and saw the old bravado was gone, replaced by a fragile honesty. The veil was nearly within reach, and together they were becoming far more than they'd been alone. The land beyond the hollow was a labyrinth, corridors of shifting stones, their walls painted with ever-changing memories. Each corner reflected some glimmer of Mina's past, the laughter of her mother, the thrill of ink on fresh parchment, and the aching loneliness that sometimes followed her even in crowds. The map quivered in her grip, inky copper lines twisting themselves into knots. Nima's steps slowed, and she leaned on her staff. This is the maze of hearts, the rift's strongest defense. In here, dreams masquerade as loved ones, and every loss you've carried will claw for your attention. Shade's jaw tightened, but he squeezed Mina's shoulder. Don't let the shadows fool you, mapmaker. I'm right here. Inside, the labyrinth came alive. The voices of people she'd loved and lost echoed from the walls, calling to her. At the first fork, Mina saw her father, exactly as he'd been before the world began unraveling. He stood in a patch of sun, arms outstretched. Come home, Mina. Let someone else save Alderwick. You deserve rest. Her heart ached, but the copper thread hummed at her wrist, reminding her of the promise she had made. Mina stepped past the phantom, whispering, I'll keep you with me, Dad, but I have to go on. Shade's trial came next. A vision of his younger self huddled in a corner, shivering. His own voice whispered, You're a fraud. You always run. Why stay now? Shade reached for Mina's hand. Not a trickster anymore. I stay because I choose to. Nima stumbled. Her illusion was a lover long lost to the rift. Tears shimmered on her cheeks as she straightened, voice barely audible. Love is not chains, but wings. I will fight to keep you free. They pressed on, each loss acknowledged and accepted, refusing to let pain turn them aside. The labyrinth fought back, hurling twisted memories and sweet, dangerous comforts. But the trio leaned on each other, speaking truth aloud in answer to every lie. Finally, at the labyrinth's heart, the rift pulsed, a spiraling wound in the air swirling with shadow and starlight. Mina looked at Shade and Nima, fear crashing in her chest but hope burning brighter beneath. Nima's voice was thin but steady. This is the heart, Mina, the veil's last defense. To mend it, you must face what was lost, and trust what might yet be found. Mina stepped forward, trembling but no longer alone. With every heartbeat, she felt the world's hope, fragile, fierce, threaded through her veins. The rift shuddered, sensing her resolve and the power of love earned through every small human choice. The rift's heart writhed before them, alive with both horror and beauty, a cyclone of blurred faces, broken lullabies, and twisting colors that lured and repulsed all at once. The air crackled with hunger. Mina's copper thread pulsed so brightly it hurt to look at. Nima raised her staff, voice thin but fierce. Now, Mina, map the boundaries. Stitch your hope to its edge. Shade and I will hold the nightmares back. As Shade drew a circle of salt and light around Mina, shadows poured from the rift, shapes of all their deepest regrets and fears. Shade fought back with only his courage, a stolen lantern, and quick, honest words. We're more than our pasts. We choose every day. Mina's hands shook as she unfurled the map. The rift bellowed, trying to tear it from her grasp, but Mina planted her feet. She traced every tremble and jag in the spinning wound, whispering, I see you. You cannot unmake what I choose to remember. Nightmares battered the circle, howling with broken promises. Outside the salt, Nima's magic sparked wild and blue, forging barriers of old lullabies and lost names. She locked eyes with Mina. It's working, but the rift is resisting. Show it what you hope for, not just what you fear. Mina squeezed her eyes shut, letting hope surface. The sound of her mother's laugh, the feeling of Shade's steady hand, the glimmer of dawn over Alderwick after the rains. The copper thread guided her trembling fingers, stitching these bright memories to the bleeding edge of the tear. Slowly, impossibly, the rift recoiled from her light. Suddenly, the cyclone stuttered, slivers of it wrenching free. For an instant, Mina saw through to her own world, her village safe, the willow grove restored. But the rift struck back, morphing into something familiar, pained. It appeared as Mina herself, sad and exhausted, holding out a hand. "Give in, Mina," it begged, voice like broken glass. "You could rest forever. Let go. End the hurt." Everything in Mina ached for peace, but she turned to Shade and Nima, saw the terror on their faces, and remembered the promise of the thread room. Resist the lies sweeter than truth. "I'm not alone," she cried, thrusting the map forward. "Hope isn't hiding from pain, it's stitching the broken parts together." The rift shrieked, reeling as Mina forced her thread into its center. Light shot from the map into the cyclone, brightening until the night screamed and shattered. But as the rift buckled and began to collapse, a shockwave hurled Mina and her friends backward, the world splintering between dreams and waking. When the light faded, they found themselves in a shadow, neither here nor there, caught between realms, with one final, impossible barrier ahead. The world flickered, half dreamlands, half Alderwick, impossible and unstable. Mina, Shade, and Nima landed hard on a bridge of splintered light suspended above an endless abyss, the broken rift swirling beneath them like a wounded beast. Mina tried to rise, dizziness clawing at her thoughts. The map lay on her chest, its lines now glowing steady blue. The copper thread tied her wrist to Shade's, binding them together. Nima steadied herself at the railing, her form flickering between young and old, solid and ghostly. "The rift's last defense," she gasped. "It is desperate now. This is where dreams and reality either mend or shatter." All at once, figures erupted onto the bridge, specters of everyone Mina and Shade had ever let down. Mina's mother, angry and cold, Shade's old gang, mocking him, calling him a traitor. The specters closed in. Shade's voice trembled. "Mapmaker, how do we fight what we can't touch?" Mina stared at her mother's shadow, feeling old wounds reopen. The copper thread burned at her wrist, and she remembered Nima's words. "Love is not chains, but wings." Taking a deep, shaking breath, Mina shouted, "You're only memories. You are pieces, important but not the whole. I am more than just your regrets." The specters hissed but faltered as Mina walked forward. Shade, lips thin and determined, echoed, "I'm done hiding behind tricks. I choose to be here. Choose them, no matter what you say." Piece by piece, the bridge beneath their feet grew more solid with each step of courage. Mina's map reformed, the lines joining with the copper thread, creating a path forward. But every time they tried to move, the bridge trembled and split, one path toward dream and one toward reality. Nima's voice drifted between the two halves, wavery and distant. "You must choose, mend the dreamlands and risk destroying Alderwick, or save your world and let the rift devour dreams forever. Both cannot be whole." Mina's eyes filled with desperate tears. She looked to Shade. "If I choose wrong, I lose everything, either my home or the place where hope begins." Shade held her gaze. "You haven't failed yet, Mapmaker. If anyone can trace a third path, it's you." The rift roared below, pulling at their feet, forcing a decision as both worlds teetered on the edge of oblivion. Nima's voice rang out again. "Hope is neither dream nor memory, but what you make real together. There is still time, but not much." Resolute, Mina raised her glowing, mended map. She would chart a new boundary, her own, no matter what the rift demanded. The final reckoning waited, close enough to taste, as the fate of both worlds hung from her trembling hands. The bridge convulsed, reality fraying at its seams as Mina stared into the abyss, where both Dreamlands and Alderwick threatened to dissolve. Nima hovered between the two realms, her features shifting with every heartbeat. Shade gripped Mina's wrist, the copper thread pulsing with frantic energy. All around them, echoes of lost dreams and memories swirled, begging Mina to choose. Mina's chest heaved with fear and hope alike. She studied her mended map, the shimmering lines now spiraling out beyond either world. The rift roared, jaws wide, its voice thundering in every language Mina had ever known. "Choose, keep one, let the other become shadow." Shade whispered, voice rough but steady. "Is there really no way home for them both? What if your map joined the two, instead of picking one over the other?" Mina's breath caught. The answer had always been in her dreams. Boundaries, yes, but also bridges. What if the veil wasn't meant to divide, but to connect? If only someone dared bind dream and reality together. "Help me, Shade." "Nima," Mina called. "Trust me." She leapt into the middle of the shifting paths, standing on nothing but her faith in both worlds. With one trembling hand, Mina pressed the map to the rift and with the other joined Nima's cool fingers to Shade's warm, calloused hand. The copper thread bound all three, glowing white-hot between them. Mina spoke words she wasn't sure she'd ever learned, but which felt old as sunlight. By root and wind, hope and memory, I chart a new boundary. Neither world lost, both worlds changed. Let the veil shift, not to divide, but to weave. The rift's scream became a harmony, one of pain and joy, of endings and beginnings. Light arced from the map, the thread unraveling and reforming into a vast shimmering tapestry. Images from both worlds flickered in the weave. Alderwick's streets beside the surreal dream forests, Nima's cottage standing at dawn against impossible skies, hope and fear knit together like dawn and dusk. Reality and dream collided, then settled. The bridge held, the abyss below vanished. Mina, Shade, and Nima stood at the heart of a newly forged borderland. Not one world but two, their edges forever threaded by Mina's courage and choice. Nima fell to her knees, exhausted but smiling. Shade laughed, half crazy with relief, and hugged Mina so fiercely she could barely breathe. The Dreamlands would never be what they were, nor Alderwick untouched, but their bond had created a place where impossible things could live, where hope itself had a home on either side of the veil. Nima stood, eyes shining. You did it, mapmaker. You drew the path only you could see. Mina smiled at peace as the dawn broke, both real and hallucinatory colors shimmering through the new world. I didn't do it alone. We charted the way. Together. And as light swept the horizon, Mina knew. The greatest maps were always unfinished, with borders that shifted for every hope born, and every dream that dared to cross them.